Being a gymnast means having the strength to hold on and the courage to let go. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Sports for Champions podcast. Today I'm delighted to be joined by GB double mini trampolinist Maddi Tarrant. How are you today, Maddi?
I'm good, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome and I'm very well, thank you. So I would like to start, if we could, with your sort of first foray into gymnastics. I know you were very young. Can you tell us a bit about that?
So, my mum always told me actually that I could forward roll before I could walk, so I'd just be like rolling around the house. So at the age of 4, I think, she put me into artistic gymnastics, and I kind of joined that before I had anything to do with trampolining. And at the time, my brother was trampolining, so I kind of saw what he was doing and basically wanted to join in. And it kind of all went from there. I started probably around the age of 6, and had a few kind of recreational classes, and then got into a more competitive kind of style and started to go to regional competitions, and then obviously it all happened from there. But
When did you first realise that you were talented?
That's a good question. I don't know. Kind of at the regional comps really, when I first started competing, there were kind of G routines, D routines, E routines, so they weren't actually kind of leveled by number, they were leveled by letters, and I started performing quite well like in the ranks in that kind of competition structure, and then we kind of realised that actually it would be quite easy to get me up to kind of an elite level, which I did kind of after the whole format of trampolining changed, which made it actually even easier for me to kind of push into the kind of elite level. But yeah, I definitely had a couple of coaches from one of my old gym clubs that took me and thought, like, we're going to try and push you to do like more elite level stuff from the recreational classes.
So it's fairly early on.
Yeah, it happened quite quickly. I kind of, pretty much as long as I can remember, I've been training with people that are older than me at that club, because it was quite a small club, so they only had a very small group of people that were competing at an elite level. So like I can remember training with people that were 4 or 5 years older than me and thinking, I'm not sure I should be in this group. But yeah, so that's kind of when I realised that it was about to be a bit more competitive than I thought it was going to be when I started.
Yeah, I think the coaches must have seen something in you fairly early on.
Yeah.
Would you say you were athletic naturally?
Yeah, I think I've always been quite bouncy and energetic, and I think actually so in school PE lessons, whenever we did gymnastics or kind of running or anything like that, I always wanted to be like one of the best that I could be, so I had quite natural competitiveness, I think, but yeah, I'd say definitely quite naturally like athletic.
Did you enjoy any other school sports?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed kind of the athletics and the sprints and long jump especially. I quite enjoyed that because it was very similar to kind of vault in gymnastics, in that you kind of need the speed and then you do the like whatever you're doing on the end of it. So I think athletics probably was one of my other favourite things.
So around the time of leaving primary school, I believe you transitioned into doing what you do now, which is double mini trampoline.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So it was kind of by accident. So I was trampolining up until a few years ago, but I was convinced by one of my old coaches to they had it out one session, I think, and they would like, do you want to go on that and have a little bit of fun? And tried some different things off of that. Obviously I was still very young, I was like 11, and so I did a few different skill combinations and things like that, and they kind of quickly realised that actually like we could put some passes together and be able to compete at a bit of a higher level. But yeah, I competed at a very small Southwest competition, and I think I won, but I can't actually remember. Either way, I did quite well in it, and we kind of were like, oh, okay, like we can push a little bit more and maybe get some good passes together. And then I competed the next year at a national level, I think. So yeah.
That's amazing. It's a quick turnaround.
It was a really quick turnaround.
Can you tell us a bit about the transferable skills and maybe what the steepest learning curve was for you?
So I'd obviously done trampolining for however many years it was, like 4 or 5 years. So I already had kind of the basics, like your somersaults and full twisting backs and stuff like that, which as a dismount makes it quite easy to transfer because it's the same as doing it onto on a trampoline, but you actually have a little bit extra time, so it makes it easier in a way. And as mounts, kind of, I think that's where the biggest change came in, because instead of wanting to send it upwards so that you stayed on a cross and a trampoline, you actually have to send it slightly forwards, and obviously some of that comes from the run, but it's a very slightly different technique to get it to go to where you want it on the mini, because there is a little bit of like forwards momentum that you need. But definitely doing trampolining made transferring everything to mini a lot easier, and actually they use it a lot. Like I still use trampoline a lot to train skills on mini, because it gives you more height and time to learn different skills that then you can work and build up to put on the mini now. So yeah.
How long does it take to get to put together one of those runs? Is it, what do you call it? Sorry,
a pass.
Pass.
Yeah.
So
it kind of depends really. So it depends on the difficulty, obviously. So as a very small junior, I think the scariest thing is linking off of whatever skill you do first. But 2 single somersaults can happen quite quickly. And then when you start adding in the twists, obviously it kind of gets a little bit trickier, but it's still quite, I mean, it varies gymnast to gymnast. So for me, like doing the passes I do now, I'll either find a pass really easy and it'll happen straight away, or it will be a different skill and it will take me months, and it can take a long time. But I think getting the connection is one thing, and then getting it to a point where you can you're able to land that pass and put it out in a competition is very different, because it's all very well being able to do kind of the connection in the middle and link those 2 passes, 2 moves together, but to actually have a pass that you can be like, this is competition ready, it can take even longer to do that. But yeah, I think it depends, like gymnast to gymnast. Like if you ask some of the people I train with, it can happen like that for them. But yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So in a particularly difficult pass, say for example for your dismount, which is obviously that tends to be the highest skill part of the pass. What sort of muscles are you engaging, and at what point do you kind of put your body in the right position to actually nail that ending?
Pretty much all of them. So obviously core strength in mini is such a massive factor, because if you don't have it, it just it sends you backwards, or you come in and you just let your stomach go, and obviously you land really close to the mini. So engaging your core, coming in from the mount and leaving for takeoff is probably one of the most important things. And then obviously your legs, your quads, your hamstrings, super important for the run, for the hurdle step, to generate as much power as you can so that you can go as high as you can, which inevitably makes it easier. But yeah, I think that's kind of the most important thing. And then in terms of getting into the kind of perfect position, it actually varies with each skill. So you don't want to be shaping or twisting straight away, because that can be quite bad for your back, or it just doesn't rotate you as fast. So you want to kind of be treating every single takeoff like a straight jump, and then eventually you wrap in the twist or you wrap in the somersault, and that's kind of the best way technique wise to do it.
Make it sound very easy. I'm sure it's not.
Yeah. Easier said than done, definitely.
I can imagine. So obviously you were competing fairly early on in DMT, having arrived there. And then I think when you were around 15, 16, you won your first British gold.
Yes.
After a few tries. How was that?
One of the best golds I've ever won. So the previous 3 years that I competed, I'd won silver. And that gold was I was so determined that year. I was like, I want the gold this year, and I don't anything other than silver, I think, was my mindset really. So going into the final, I think I was in second, and I was like, I'm not going to let this happen again, and I pushed really hard, and I won it, which was, yeah, like I said, it was such a relief. I landed and I looked at the scores and I was like I'm so, like, I was proud of myself, because I was like, I've finally done it after 4 years of trying. So yeah.
And I believe last year you were selected for your first senior Europeans, is that right?
So the first senior competition I was selected for was a World Championships.
Sorry, World,
it's alright. Yeah, so I just turned 17, and it was a bit hit or miss whether I was kind of going or not. And it ended up being like the very last competition before Worlds of me hitting the score that I needed to and beating the people that I needed to beat, and I got selected onto the team, and it was quite a big, like, kind of reality check of, oh, okay, like, this is happening, like, I'm going to my first senior Worlds, and I kind of didn't really feel like I was like ready to go. I was like, I don't feel like I belong in senior yet, but actually it was quite a I don't know, it was, yeah, like I said, it was a reality check to say, like, no, you are, like, at this level, you can compete kind of with the big girls, basically, because obviously at senior it's kind of 17 plus, so I can compete against 25, 26-year-olds, even though I was still so young. So I think that was probably, it was a bit daunting, basically, but yeah, it was such a good experience to be able to go and see, like, all the senior gymnasts that you see, like, online on the live streams, because as a junior you don't go in the same week, you go the week after, so you don't see any of these people, like, in the flesh, basically. So it's my first time kind of going and seeing all the, like, even the senior women, like, at the top end are, like, absolutely insane. So yeah, it was a really, like, cool experience to go and see, definitely, and compete against everyone. So yeah.
Do you think you will approach that kind of tournament differently now that you've kind of got the first one sort of under your belt?
Yeah, so nerves were definitely a factor in that first competition, but definitely now that I've kind of, because obviously I did the European Championships earlier this year, now that I've seen it a little bit more and I know kind of how the game works and what happens at those, because it's, the structure of it's very different to what you'd get at a junior Worlds when you kind of compete prelims and finals in one day, whereas a senior Worlds it's much more spread out, and obviously you have team events as well. So yeah, I think definitely would approach it a little bit differently, and probably with a little bit more confidence in myself and kind of what I can do now. So
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely.
And then last year, I believe you took team gold at the Europeans.
Yes. So that was May, earlier this year actually, and that was, so we were the first. I think I'm right in saying this. The first women's GB DMT team that did that, like, won the gold, because the girls had got silver like a few years prior. But yeah, it was such a surreal experience, and we were on the floor with the boys tumbling team as well, who won gold at the same time as us. So it was such an amazing experience to be part of, like, that celebration, basically, because it was like we finally done it, and to be on that team was something really special. But actually for me, as an individual competition was really, like, kind of a bit of a breakthrough for me as well, and I kind of realised that the first senior competition wasn't a fluke, and, like, I was able to compete, and I think I actually I would have come 8th in that competition, but there's a 2-person rule, so only 2 people from each country can make the final. So I think the 3 girls that I was on the team with were ahead of me in that top 8, so me and one other of the GB girls were actually pushed out of the final so other people could go. But for me, the prelims score and being actually top 8 in a, like, if you just did it by scores was, like, quite an achievement in itself.
Yeah, it shows you at that level, doesn't it? Yeah.
But then to go on and obviously win that team gold was, like, it was really special.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think you definitely found your level now, and I'm sure it's only more exciting things to come.
Hopefully.
Is there anything particularly that motivates you to do this?
I think I quite enjoy having something to be proud of, in a way. That sounds a bit weird, but it's something that's kind of been a part of me for so long, and having kind of 6-year-old me would, like, she'd be absolutely in awe of if she knew what I was doing now. So it's kind of, that's a bit like, what would 6-year-old me think, basically? And it's like that, I don't know, it just kind of, it motivates you to keep going and keep pushing and keep kind of wanting to win things and wanting to be like on a team, because going on team trips away is so fun, like, and you get to explore so many cool places. So obviously I've been to Tokyo, which is like somewhere I'd never really think to go to, so it gives you so many good experiences that you wouldn't get doing anything else, really. So I think that's quite a big bit of motivation. Yeah.
That's amazing. And there's another side to DMT that people might not know so much about,
Yes.
and that is funding.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's not funded.
No.
And that actually, for some of the athletes that compete in that discipline, Sports for Champions can help them out in that way. Fortunately,
Yes.
we can do a little bit to help. Can you tell us a little bit about the current situation and maybe how Sports for Champions can help you?
So currently, as a senior gymnast, you can get your trips to a World Championships or a Europeans are funded for you. As a junior, they are not, so it all has to come from you. But for me, things like training sessions, monthly memberships, DMT shoes, because they run out really quickly, leotards, chalk, everything like that is completely funded by, like, me, basically. So it doesn't come from anywhere else at all, which can be quite difficult, obviously, for some people. And I know a lot of people have fundraisers for things like Worlds, because it can be really, really expensive. So I think, yeah, fundraising in itself for athletes is so helpful and such a vital thing, because it allows them to do what they want to do and do what they love, and gives them opportunities that they wouldn't necessarily otherwise have. Yeah, I think it's one of the most important things. I know, I was on a different program that kind of gave me some sponsorship and like physio support and things like that, and that was one of the most helpful things I've had ever. Like, it was such a nice thing to have that I could kind of fall back on if I had an injury, or I just knew it was there to kind of help me along, basically. So yeah, having some extra support from fundraising, I think, is like super important.
It's really important.
Yeah.
How often are you training at the moment?
At the moment, I train 4 nights a week, I think, for about 2 hours at a time, sometimes 3. So it can be quite full on. I know when I was at school, especially last year, in my last year of A-levels, it was really full on. But I'm kind of taking a year off now, so it's quite nice to be able to have that kind of in the background that I'm able to go to every day. So yeah, it's quite a good balance, I think, at the moment with training and life. So
And balance is key.
Balance is very key.
Speaking of which, how's your nutrition?
Do you know, it's actually okay. I treat myself here and there, but I think nutrition actually is one of the things I can feel most when I train. So if I go in and I have not like eaten well, or had the correct things to fuel myself before training, you can feel it, because you're tired, you don't have energy, you don't have any power, and it just makes the training session like bad, and it's just like it has a negative outcome, basically. So I think nutrition is one of the things that affects me most. So eating healthy and eating the right things, not necessarily like eating salads, because that's not going to be helpful in terms of energy for training. So like you're getting your carbs in and then getting your protein in for recovery. It's so important to keep on top of it, so that my training is positive, as positive as it can be, because it's already difficult sport, but to add in like I'm tired or I'm hungry or I haven't fueled my body correctly, it just makes it even more difficult. So
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you think that the life of a professional athlete is tough compared to maybe other careers or paths?
Yes, in some senses. I think the amount of work and dedication that goes into being an elite athlete, which people from the outside may not necessarily see, because at the top end people make it look so easy. So I know it's similar discipline, but tumbling, some of the top tumblers, male and female, make it look so easy, but I know if I step foot on a tumble track, it would be like awful. Like, I don't think I'd be able to do anything near to what they could do. So the hard work that goes into putting that, like being able to display such a thing and like being able to do those top end passes it's really demanding, like, and you have to be so on top of everything, you have to be so fit, and it doesn't just come from pure talent. Obviously it kind of, yeah, it is really demanding, I think, but you get such a good feeling out of doing it, and when a competition goes well, it's such a rewarding feeling that it's kind of all worth it. So in a sense, yes, and in a sense, not really.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Do you have a favourite sporting hero?
She's gonna love me for this. I think, actually, like, in all seriousness, Kirsty Way, because her attitude towards the sport and how hard she works is quite inspiring, really, to see what she's achieved and to see. I'm never going to hear the end of this. But yeah, I think so I get to train with her, obviously, and it's quite, it's just so good to see, like, how hardworking she is, and it's all the behind the scenes things that everyone that comes to the competition, even my mum and dad, they don't see. So you get to see all kind of the blood, sweat and tears, really, that goes into creating what you put out on the performance stage. But yeah, she's got such a positive attitude towards it that it's quite hard not to have a good time when you train with her, basically.
That's amazing. First time one of our athletes has been chosen as there, so we'll take that.
I'm
definitely.
Literally never going to hear the end of that.
I'm sure not. Do you have a favourite sporting quote?
Yes, we discussed it. It's hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Excellent. What does that mean to you?
Kind of, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not prepared to put in the hours or dedicate yourself to what you want to do, it's never going to go anywhere. I think I could have so much talent, but if I didn't do anything and I didn't work hard, it wouldn't amount to anything more than what that pure talent would give me, which is maybe some spatial awareness or something that aids the hard work. But I think you can have two very different gymnasts, one that absolutely grafts and will work hard every training session and will push and push and push and push, and you can have one that's talented, but because they're talented they think, I don't really need to work hard, but actually in the long run, when they hit a senior level or they hit one of the biggest competitions, the person that's been working hard and grafting and trying to improve every single session will always come out on top, I think. So yeah,
I think that's true for most sports, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely.
And how do you think being an athlete makes you a better person?
It's definitely improved things like perseverance and my attitude towards things, definitely, because you have to have so much perseverance in a sport where things can go wrong, you can get mental blocks, and you just have to overcome them if you want to keep pushing. And the perseverance of, you fall over on so many attempts of this skill, but you get that one that finally lands on its feet, or the pass that finally links. It's the feeling you get from that is worth all that perseverance. So it kind of, you can apply that into everything kind of outside of the gym, really. And yeah, with my attitude especially, it kind of, because I was disciplined from such a young age, it made school life so much easier, because if I was told something needed to be handed in on that date, it would be handed in on that date, because if you're not if you don't have discipline in the gym, you get hurt, you fall behind, you don't get as many opportunities. So it kind of made my attitude towards that a lot better than I think it would kind of if I didn't do that sport. Definitely.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And finally, do you have any advice for a young person maybe to start out in sport, or maybe even specifically to gymnastics?
So jumping straight in, definitely.
Just going for it.
And doing it without thinking, oh, I might not be very good at this, I might not be very good at that. Some of the top gymnasts didn't start until 7 or 8, and it's just all about working hard and your ethics, and like about kind of what you want to do, your goals. Definitely, if you want to compete at a high level, if you work hard enough, you can make it happen. Like, it's not kind of a like, oh, I want to do this, but it's probably not going to happen. Like, if you want it that much, you can make that happen. And I think starting out, you have to be prepared to fail so many times, and you have to, like I said, you have to persevere and keep going, because eventually you will get the new skill and you will move up groups and you will be able to move up levels in competition. I think, just working hard basically is the key to success. But yeah, for starting out, just all in, give it your best go, and it will absolutely go from there. I kind of stumbled upon it by accident, so it can kind of jump on you whenever, really, which it definitely did for me. So
tremendous advice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you
us
for
today.
having me.
No, you're more than welcome. And thank you to everyone for joining us at home. It's been another great episode of the Sports for Champions podcast, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Hi guys, hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, be sure to leave us a like and a subscribe, and check out all our other videos for some more great interviews and content. Bye.